Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are here again on Advancing the Cause, another Wednesday evening. How are you doing? My folks there, um, good evening to you. It's like, sometimes when I come on here and I see you, I just don't know what to say to you. But anyhow, Chevron and everybody else, and I sent and everybody else, good night, good night, good night to you. And it's always a pleasure being here with you. So tonight we are rushing, and so very quickly I want to say to you, we are going to be taking a closer look. We're taking a closer look tonight. And of course, we have a guest who's going to be here to help us to take that closer look. But quickly, let me say happy birthday to all those persons who would have celebrated their birthdays. I know we've got lots and lots of 50 sharing. We've got 75 sharing. We've got 62 sharing, and we've got 103. So happy birthday to all of those persons. I know my friends in Switzerland, the young man from Paris who was watching us last week, our friends from Turkey. We want to say good night to you. Well, it's good morning to you, but it's night here with us. And we want to say good night to all of our friends in the Caribbean who are watching us. Yes, big up to our Guyanese folks there in Antigua. Good night to you. To our friends right here in Guyana, good night to you. New Jersey, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Tennessee. I'm going to get myself into problems. Good night to all of you, and we're happy that you're here. Last week we started a new thing where we introduced the calling aspect. This week again, we are going to do that. But let me tell you what, some people watch this program because this program is here to bring about awareness and education. And they get all upset sometimes when we air this program and when we say things on this program. Persons are upset when callers call in and they're telling me I should shut callers off. But let me say this to you. When callers, because I'm opening this program, when callers call into this program, as long as they're not being very disrespectful, I'm going to allow the caller to speak, and then I will speak after. So I'm not going to be shutting anybody off. So if persons feel that I should be cutting off the phone line, I am not going to do that. If you want to do that, you have a program and you do just that on your program. But good night to everyone, and we're in for a bang tonight. So on the headlines tonight, of course, we have to say, send out our condolences to all of those persons who have lost loved ones. I want to say to my sister way out of the quarantine there, Janet Samuels, our sincerest condolences to you on the loss of your mom. It's not easy to lose a loved one, and I can understand how you feel. And we've lost so many persons during this week, and I trust that God is going to bless you, and God is going to continue to give you that strength and be the comfort you need at this time. I want to say a special shout out to Mistress Dummett from way out there in Camberville. I think she's somewhere in her 80s or almost 90, and she is there religiously every week watching this program. Good night to you, and thank you for being here and watching the program and the thoughts you send out. So good night to you. Yes, on our highlights tonight, let's go because I recognize our guest is in studio. We recognize this evening that a Barbies woman was found dead in her home with her son. Both of them had chop wounds in Rose Hall there on the quarantine, in East Quarantine, Barbies. This is so very sad. I don't know where we are going, and I don't know. It seems as if we want to get somewhere very quickly. All sorts of things are happening. Accidents taking lives, stabbings, chops, all kinds of things. I don't know. Come on, look. I would want to invite all our pastors and all our pundits and all of our mages and so on. Come on, we've got to pray for this country. Do a little more praying for this country. Too many lives are being lost. Too much blood is on our streets. We don't need any more of that. And then we had two fishermen who recounted their harrowing experience while out at sea. But we're happy that they're alive and they can tell that story. And oh yes, we saw the reshuffling of PSs. We recognize PS Alfred King from Education. He is now at the Prime Minister's office. And we saw May Toussaint Boyce. She's been moved from Ministry of Home Affairs, and she's now at the Ministry of Labor. Lord have mercy. I don't know what's going to happen to my labor minister there, but reshuffling of PSs, and then we saw two new PSs being drafted into the fold. I don't know if I should say congratulations to them, but you've been appointed new PS, and so congratulations to you. We trust that you're going to do the job in a professional way, and your mandate would be to look out for the Guyanese people. Well, we saw the send-off that Dr. Roger Luncheon got yesterday, and while persons are very, very upbeat and they don't want to hear, I mean, he did some good things, and we want to thank him for his services that were given to this country. And yes, what a way to send him off yesterday. And then we have a New Amsterdam prisoner who died after collapsing, but his family members are saying that he was beaten and taken to the hospital, and they knew nothing about it until they had planned to go and visit him, and then they were told that he was hospitalized since the Thursday before. Come on, if persons are if they're not well, not because they're prisoners, if they're not well, then you need to inform their relatives so that the relatives would know. And yes, we have Joel Ward watching us from New Jersey. Joel, good night to you, and good night to my friend Winston Henry from East La Penitence. And then we saw Ramshi Thief being jailed for 16 months. Wow, that's a good one. A young man who felt that he could steal people's sheep and goats. He was jailed for 16 months. And then just about 2.5 weeks before the reopening of schools, and I'm hoping that parents all have their their children's school uniforms and their books and their backpacks and everything else. I'm hoping that you're having those already, because we got the $40,000 the Monday. Was it the Monday or whichever day it was, just before the local government elections, as a bribe to get you to go vote for the PPP. But I'm hoping that those monies are still there, and that you kept them on the lock and key, so you're able to purchase the school outfit for your children. But I know the cry is not so. I know that many families had to use those monies to get food for their children to eat. And so right now, some families are still waiting to get monies to buy school clothes. And while they're waiting to get monies to buy school clothes, we have Jagio and the PPP who are continuing to give the Guyanese people bogus excuses as reasons for them not being able to give us livable incomes or decent incomes to poor families. While they're enjoying the fat cats, they're enjoying the fat cats' salaries. And it's amazing that these very people, when they were in opposition just the other day, they were abusing and cussing out the coalition government. But now when they're in office, they're enjoying the big life. The same 50% and so on that they abused out about, they're enjoying it right now. You see, come see me, come live with me, two different stories. But we don't want to take much more of our time, and so we're going to invite our guest to come right up. He's no stranger to any one of us. We all know him. We all love him because he's a man who stands for truth. He's a man who abides by the principles. And so we want to welcome our guest again to another episode of Advancing the Cause, retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Paul Slowe. Hi, very good night to you. And again, welcome to another episode of Advancing the Cause, where we are going to be taking a closer look. Welcome to you, Mr. Slowe.
Good evening. Welcome to you. Thank you, and good evening to your viewers as well.
Yes. Well, like I would always say, Paul, we here and we rocking. I don't know if we rocking in hammocks, if we rocking in swingers, I don't know what we rocking on right now, but Guyana seems to be rocking here. They're all over the place, and we seem not to be heading in the direction that we are supposed to be heading in. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, things seem very rocky indeed. As you pointed out in your introduction, lots of murders, lots of accidents, and all kind accidents and incidents, because now the police are making a distinction between fatal accidents and fatal incidents. But at the end of the day, people are dying on the road. People are being killed. Only today, we learned of this gruesome murder of a lady and her son on the quarantine. And then we have dengue in the midst. People are dying from dengue fever as well. So it seems as though everything that can go wrong is going wrong.
Well, Paul, I forgot to mention in my opening remarks that dengue, the government's incompetence has caused the dengue outbreak in this country, and they've not been saying anything about it. Years ago, when we had a whole lot of mosquitoes around, you would see the tractors passing and they fogging out the areas. We're not seeing that happening right now. And when people were complaining about persons coming down with dengue, and they're having this fever, and they were coming down with the fever, having this fever here and the fever there, and all over the place, people getting fever. The government was saying absolutely nothing on it. Nothing until people started dying, and then you started putting a little pressure on them. Then they said, oh, you have to be watchful, ensure that you clean your areas, the drains in front of you. But whose responsibility is it to clean the drains in front of where you live and to have the garbage picked up on time? While we understand that it's the function of the municipalities and the NBCs, if they don't get the funding, how are they going to do that? Paul?
Yeah, well, it's at the end of the day, it's public health, and public health is the responsibility of central government. The other local authorities may have some responsibility, but one cannot deny that central government has the primary responsibility for health throughout the country. And as you alluded to earlier, when people were talking about this dengue, they were in denial. I think the people, the health officials, were actually denying until they were confronted. And then it was only quite recently where they admitted that at least 6 children had died in recent weeks from dengue. I don't think they had given the figures of the adults who died, but people are coming down. And as we said, you have to first of all own up to this thing, and then put measures in place to deal with it. The World Health Organization, the World Health Organization has clearly stated that given what they call the rise in climate change, that has resulted in the weather getting warmer, and therefore the breeding grounds for the Aedes, the gypsy mosquitoes, which spread this dengue, is the breeding ground is more prominent, and therefore these things have to be taken into consideration, and necessary measures have to be taken. Fogging, cleaning of drains, cleaning of trenches. These things got to be done on a sustained basis.
Well, I don't know. You see, the thing is, the masses of our Guyanese people don't live in Prattville. Do they live in Prattville too? Neither are they living in Windsor Estates. And so what happens around the country, apart from those places, is neither here nor there for this government. We all understand, and we know from the way the masses are being treated, we understand that this government doesn't care about them. All they care about is themselves, the 3 Fs: family, friends, and favorites. And we're seeing that every day. But Paul, we want to look very closely at what is happening here. We have some slides that we're going to put up on the screen so that we can talk about them. Because sometimes when you don't hear anything about these things, you wonder. And while we're getting those slides up on the screen, Paul, I noticed that an arrest was made for Roger Khan.
Well, all I can say, I saw that some complaint was made against him of assault and threat with the use of a firearm. All I can say, perhaps the mighty are fallen, because he used to be untouchable some years ago, but the mighty has fallen now.
Well, while that is so true, the haste with which this arrest was made is commendable. But when you try to balance the scale now, it's not balancing, because we had a damning allegation that was made against Dharam Lal, who I notice is still using honorable in front of his name. Dharam Lal, you're not honorable. You're no longer, well, you weren't honorable in the first place. But the hesitation, all the hesitance that was made before Dharam Lal could have turned himself in, but I guess, again, once you're not friends, favorites, or family, then anything can happen to you. But we wait for the photographs, the slides there to come up, Paul. And we want to talk a little about these here. Are we getting them up? Yes, the two young men we are seeing there, the Henry boys. Another year is approaching, I should say. Another year is approaching. Paul, what is your take on this one here?
Well, again, you have these cases, we have been saying this all along. You have these cases, they rush the charge, people are charged, and then you don't hear anything more about it. And don't be surprised if sometime during the road, you hear that there's no prima facie evidence against the persons who were charged, because that has been something that has been very prevalent in recent times. So much so that the Justice Whip from the Caribbean Court of Justice has to remark on the number of cases which are thrown out in Guyana at the no case submission stage. It goes to a preliminary inquiry, or in the case of a summary case, the prosecution, the state presents its case, and defense counsels make no case submission, and many of those submissions are upheld, which tells us that no proper investigation, no proper evidence gathering is done. So, these things, as I said, another year is approaching, and you don't hear anything about it. I guess the families of those who are incarcerated might be keeping abreast, but the general public is none the wiser as to what is the development in this case, at what stage it is at, whether it has passed through the preliminary inquiry stage, whether people have been committed to stand trial for these gruesome murders. We don't know. And that is part of the problem in this country. We don't know. People have a limited shelf life for these incidents. They occur, and for a morning or two, you hear a big set of knives, and thereafter, you hear nothing. Look, for example, the same Dharam Lal matter that you referenced. That's just a couple months ago, and it is already on the back burner. So much so that Dharam Lal is now portraying himself on social media as a victim. That is what we have. That is what we have. And as we say, Guyana cannot be a real place.
I don't know. Something seemed to be happening there. Okay, all right, good. So we're up again. But Paul, like you said, the big noise and this murder, or these murders, rocked this entire country. Two young men, as a matter of fact, three. I don't know if the operator could pull up the other one that happened around the same period. Joel, Isaiah, and Harry Singh. Three murders, three young men who were cut off in the prime of, well, they didn't even reach the prime of their lives yet. And these three young men were just cut down. And like you were saying, the families of those who are incarcerated might be kept upbeat, if at all, with what is happening. But the general public, we don't know what is happening. And like everything else, when you don't hear and you don't find out, then that gone. As one viewer is saying, the police cut teeth. They cut teeth, So I don't know. But Paul, from your standpoint, as a retired police officer, of course I have to add a retired distinguished officer. What advice can you give to the police force?
Well, the police force as currently, well, not the police force, I shouldn't say the police force. We're talking about the top management as currently constituted. They're not listening to anyone. Well, at least someone who can make sense. I believe I have a lot of sense to make. Instead of listening and taking advice, listen to the message. They're not listening to the message. They're looking at the messenger. I am now persona non grata. So they have they believe that anything that I say should not be taken into consideration. And that is what they portray. But I know from some of the actions that they have taken in recent times, over the months and perhaps the past year or so, is as a result of advice, recommendations that I have been making along with retired Assistant Commissioner Conway on our program, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence. Lots of the things that we have been talking, they're doing it. So the thing about the police force now, the police force, at least at the management level, is in serious crisis. They might not want to admit it, but you look at the evidence. You have a man who is squatting in the chair of the commissioner, unqualified as he is, and the president, in my view, unconstitutionally decided that he's going to allow him to remain there for a period to be determined later. That is what is going on, for a period to be determined later. So all of those people who are there and perhaps even are even more qualified, and we have had legitimate expectations of being promoted, their upward mobility is now stymied. And you can very well imagine how demoralized those persons are, because my information is that they were willing to go along. They were willing to, as we would say in the military, fall in and cover down, because his time was drawing near. He reached the age of 55, which is the mandatory retirement age, on the 22nd of July this year. So they were willing to abide by whatever happened then. But once that period passed, and then the president is going to make such a statement, that is demoralizing. As I say, unqualified, and is there. So you get the impression that going to university, going to study law, and all of those type of things doesn't really matter once you said earlier, once you're favored, and in this case, once you're a bridesmaid to the president, you're going to be there forever and ever. Amen.
Well, Paul, I wasn't going to touch on that one so early, but I'm happy that you touched on that, because, it's not only in the Guyana police force we're having this all around, where this has now become a singing, maybe the theme song for the PPP, where they always feel that dangling carrots over people's head would get people to do all kinds of things. So we have a whole lot of actors and actresses who have returned. Some of them are there, they will continue to be there, and some will go off, and then they will come on again. What we have seen happening every time the PPP is around is that you always have somebody acting. That's one. So that they can always keep you tucked in. You can't speak against them. And secondly, we find them having the people, like you said, you call them the bridesmaids, but I call them the pipers and his pipes. Once they can dance to the tune of the piper, or the piper could dance to their tune, somebody dancing to somebody's tune, you're there, and you're favored whether you're qualified or not. And well, I noticed one of our callers saying we have to remember that the presidents is the same too. But the thing is, it's serious. And here is where we're having the kind of not non-support, but not giving of your best happening in every aspect, or in every sector, of this country, where persons vie to reach the top. And then you just find at some point, when you're almost there, you have somebody who's stagnant right there, and they're not removing them. And this here, Paul, you need to tell us. I know that the acting commissioner of police, he was not confirmed even up to when he retired, when he reached the age of 55. And so can we have somebody who has not been confirmed continuing to act there even after you will have reached the statutory age?
Well, let me say this in terms of the acting appointments. And a lot of people are acting, but then sometimes this is done very selectively. If you recall, not so long ago, the Chief of Staff of the Guyana Defense Force, Mr. Bess, he acted on to the day when he was to retire. And his successor, Colonel Khan, made to they conform and promote him same time. So it's not everyone is being put through this acting Hollywood arrangement. Now, in terms of the person, I like to say the person who's now squatting. He used to sit in the chair of the commission. Now the person who's squatting in that chair. There has never been a case in the history of the Guyana Police Force where someone has been acting in that position and having reached the age of retirement has been asked to, as the president said, to continue. And I read something today where the Attorney General is saying that the Constitution was followed, and a lot of things that he said in a program. He said that he made these remarks in a program last night or recently on issues in the news in response to a letter that a colleague of mine, Mr. Conway, put in the newspaper. And, he's saying that the Police Service Commission recommended to the president for the acting commissioner to continue. And somebody said in one of the comments, and I agree with that person, we would love to see the minutes and the records of that meeting. I am willing to bet my last dollar that that never took place. And if they could find minutes and that type of thing now, it's things that were put together, backdated. It's forgery, right? Forgery, just to cover their posterior. And I am saying this without any fear of successful contradiction. You have a situation now where murders and other crimes have gone through the roof. Guyana has the seventh highest crime rate in the world. The police actually admitted a few weeks ago that murders for this year were 32% higher than the corresponding period last year. And then they wanted to say that number is because of the 20 people who were killed in the Maja fire. But even if you take that out, it is still above what you have. You have a situation where road accidents, whether they call it accidents or incidents, is at an all-time high. And so many other things that are going wrong, that supposed to be public safety and security, and you are comfortable with that. The Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry issued a statement calling out the police for these murder and lawlessness in the country. Only a few days ago, the U.S. ambassador commended the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce for calling out and trying to hold the police accountable. The U.S. Embassy issued a level 3 advisory to its citizens. And notwithstanding all of that, the president seems very comfortable with what is going on. Very, very comfortable. So therefore, stay on. Continue to do whatever you have been doing. So I have no doubt that things are going to continue to slide downward because it requires professional and competent leadership, not only at the police level, but at the ministry and the government level. And it is clear that that type of leadership is non-existent.
I mean, we're at a sad stage. We are at a sad state now in the history of this country. Operator, if you would bring the other slides on. Outside of these three young men, Paul, we had or in Boston. What was happening there? We know that they said some squad officer, somebody, whoever he be, he was charged, but we're not hearing anything about this again. What's happening? This another one, Paul?
Another one sliding through the crack. Boston charged the man, and the policeman involved charged with manslaughter. He charged with manslaughter, and went through court, put on bail, and you don't hear again. Many times I have a lot of friends in the media, lots of people who I respect in the media, but sometimes I have to call them out because they should be the ones who are pursuing these matters to keep the public abreast with what is going on. This is another one. Another terrible killing of a young black man by the police in this case. Policeman charged, and you're not hearing anything more. Again, I say perhaps the relatives of Boston might know what is going on, but the public at large, you're not hearing anything about this matter. When last this matter was called? What stage is it at? Is it still at the preliminary inquiry stage? Is it, or the matter has been well? I suspect if the matter has been concluded, then you're gonna hear something in the news. But people need to be kept abreast of what is going on in these matters, and we should hold the media accountable for following up on these matters.
Well, Paul, I remember, and I heard you mention it again, the manslaughter charge. But this young man was in his bed sleeping. So I'm trying to find out how is it that that this officer's been charged for manslaughter. I don't know. Maybe you can tell us some more.
Well, I can, because the DPP seems, and a charge like this, whether it's manslaughter, whether it's murder, the DPP would have been the one to make the recommendation to the police. Same thing with a matter like the Madja fire, where 20 persons have died. The young person there is charged with murder. You have the recent case with Olata Sam. The man there, a 22-year-old young man from Plaisance, is charged with murder. And given the circumstances, given the egregious nature of this Boston killing, a charge of manslaughter is recommended. And so therefore, it bothers many. It baffles persons to understand what is the yardstick being used to determine whether a charge of murder or a charge of manslaughter is instituted. It is not. It is clear that there are no clear set guidelines. It all depends on perhaps who the person is, whatever political influence has been exerted. Because they took a long time before this policeman was charged with this murder. A long time, and I suspect it's only because of public pressure that a charge was reluctantly filed in this matter. And that is what we have. That is what we have. So nobody have any faith in the justice system any longer because of how it's operated. And again, we mentioned earlier Dharmlal. Look at Dharmlal's case. Clear case of rape. Clear case. I have absolutely no doubt. Because when you read the Sexual Offences Act, and when you read the relevant case laws, the law says in the Sexual Offences Act that you don't need to have corroboration for a charge to be instituted for rape. The young lady gave a statement that went to the DPP, and I'm saying that alone would have been sufficient for a charge to be instituted. The law further states, the case laws will say that and this came out in the Henry Green case, that the DPP should not only look to see whether a prima facie case has been made out, but whether there's a prospect for a conviction. And I am saying quite clearly, given the evidence that was all over the place, the statement from the young lady and our brother and all of that was sufficient for a charge of rape to be instituted against Nigerian Dharmlal. But the DPP, for some reason, unknown reason, not explained on today like today, decided that the file should go back to the police for some clarification. And as was expected, it came back to say that the victim does not want to pursue the matter any further. And here this is the Director of Public Prosecutions saying, well, let me be more accurate, because I don't think I ever saw or say making a statement. But the police said that the Director of Public Prosecution told them that the victim decided that not to pursue in this matter was in our interest. This is a 16-year-old. And the DPP is saying a 16-year-old can determine what is in our best interest. And then the DPP goes on to say, according to the police, that the statement was given freely and voluntarily. Now, this person is in custody for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, being interviewed and interrogated at all ungodly hours. Finally caved in and decided to say, well, look, I don't want any further matter. And the Director of Public Prosecutions in Guyana can tell the public that statement was taken freely and voluntarily. Again, I say we're not living in a real place.
So Paul, this is just a closer look we're taking at what's happening in this country, because it is still juggling in my mind that after all of this, all these statements of the visit to the home, you said, oh, the bedroom was repainted, the furniture was rearranged, and then all of a sudden now you're coming to say that this, it did not happen, and it's not you, some kind of craziness to that effect, and you no longer want this issue to be pursued, and one wonders whether, you know, I still can't find words to explain how I feel and how the public at large is feeling when you're hearing that this 16-year is saying that she doesn't want to pursue this thing any longer and it never happened. And so if it never happened, why were you at the home of Nigel Daramlal? Why did you say that the room was repainted? Why did you say that the furnishing was rearranged? So, you know, why did you? I don't understand. But again, I guess it's the $5 million in parts and the alleged 25 million that we are hearing, and maybe some promise that maybe Daramlal is going to get married to her or something to that effect. And so we covering down this whole thing. And so it now paves the way for anybody else to do the same thing to a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, wherever it is, 17-year-old, and so on. And then you get them to say, well, I no longer wish to pursue this matter. And it wasn't me. I'm now coming forward to say this and to say that. So are we to understand that the statements you wrote before, that you were pressured to write those statements because you were saying that this one was freely done? So are we to understand that you were pressured to do the ones you did before? And if that's the case, Paul, coming out and making these damning allegations and tarnishing the reputation of Nigel Daramlal, then why isn't there any charges being brought against this young lady?
Well, let me correct you. I don't think that this could have tarnished the image of Daramlal. Daramlal already had a terrible image. We know about the remarks in Parliament. We know of him. I think he has threatened or assaulted some person. And he had a terrible. So this wouldn't have tarnished. This was in keeping with the image that he has. But let me say this. As I said, Daramlal is on social media playing a victim. Right? In other words, I hear sometime he wrote something to say that he had a dream, and in this dream, Aubrey Norton was apologizing to him, a whole set of crap. Daramlal, if that is so, if these things are so, and if this young lady is telling lies on you, I dare you to sue her for defamation of character.
Well, I am saying the same thing too.
If it is that this incident never occurred, right? You should then go to file private action against her for defamation of character, because this was all over the world. And I dare Nigel Daramlal to file civil action against the victim if he's saying that the victim has damaged or tarnished his image and character. I dare him.
Well, you know, I don't want to dare Daramlal, because Daramlal is playing, he is such a victim right now that he is now being awoken from his sleep. I saw him, maybe 2 days ago or something like that, or sometime over the weekend, writing something on his Facebook page. Again, let me say to Nigel, you are not honorable. So take honorable down from your page. You're not honorable.
Let me, rather than taking it down, you should really put the prefix, this. You should put this in front of it. Don't take it down. Just put the prefix so that we can understand exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. Well, I'm not even so sure that he would understand that. As a matter of fact, Nigel Daramlal is a disgrace to the students who attended President's College in its earlier years, and even to those who are attending President's College now. He's a disgrace to the purple. But to go further, Nigel Daramlal is saying that he is now breaking his silence on so many things. And I had to ask him the other day, because I noted he mentioned me in one of his posts to say, in Parliament, I waved some object looking like a dildo to him, and I said that's for his sister. But even while I did that to him, he did not direct the dildo remarks to me, he directed it to somebody else. And I'm wondering, how is this matching? It didn't make no sense. But that's Nigel Dharamlal. He's trying to play victim now to see who's going to have sympathy on him. But Nigel, we know you. We know the story when you pulled the gun on the UNDP officer. We know that. And Kemrat Ramjatan was the one who really had sympathy on you then. And you weren't charged. But again, this boy, Nigel, is a mannish boy, As a matter of fact, I'm hearing that he was being groomed to replace, what the boy name? Our friend. And because the folks in the party, they like it, they just decide to spill the bean. Because you remember how long this thing happened since December of the year before. And then it came out recently. But Nigel is not honorable. As a matter of fact, I don't even think any one of them in there are honorable. Because if they were honorable, many of them would have spoken against that allegation that came out. But Paul, as we move further on, I notice our comments there in the comment section where our folks are saying, God will deal with them. And that's the PPP and all of those things they're saying there. And yes, they're saying that they got sense and they can't tell them, the government can't tell them any kind of foolishness. But we have some other slides to show. And these are parents who are hurting, communities who are hurting. This is the Peter Headley boy. He was shot by the police too. What's happening there?
My last recollection of this one is that the DPP ordered an inquest. And inquest is something that is really like it extinct. You don't get inquest any longer. But again, circumstances which show that the police, at least at face value, that the police were at fault. This is a man who was put in a car after some stop on the East Bank, and some way he was shot from the back. Somebody sat in the back seat, and some of a gun went off and shot and killed him, and claimed that he reached under the seat. That is, at least reached under the seat for some object which caused this thing. So again, as I said, it went to the DPP. The DPP said inquest. A matter like this, as revealed recently by the Complaints Authority, these matters should be supervised. The investigation should be supervised by the Complaint Authority. I don't know if this was supervised by the Complaint Authority, but we recall the Complaint Authority saying that the current man who is squatting in the commissioner's chair has been dealing with these things in violation of the Police Complaints Authority Act. So I don't know what happened in this case, where this matter is, and this is another one that seems to have slipped through the crack. I suspect even the relatives, because no one is charged, even the relatives may not know what has happened in this matter.
Paul, I noticed that we heard the president saying recently that they are going to have to import truck drivers. And then they said they're going to have to import, I think, teachers to teach Spanish. Could we also recommend that they import persons from the UK or the US to police officers who can come to conduct the investigations on these matters?
But that's not going to happen because the government don't want transparency. You recall not so long ago with the paper shots killing and the fallout from that, where the police sergeant alleged that $30 million was paid to a senior rank at the CID headquarters to cover up the matter. He came out with that, and therefore he was classified as a whistleblower. Instead of dealing with him as a whistleblower, the government and the police went after him. He charged him for cybercrime offenses and all of that. And then say that they brought the RSS, that is the Regional Security System, someone from the RSS. Some people will say that they left out a vowel because it is not RSSS. The A is left out. And this is what they said. That is the most secretive report, because the government said that the RSS came and reviewed the investigation and said that the police were doing a satisfactory job. and that the allegations made by the police sergeant had no merit. And we discovered that they never spoke to the person who made the allegation. They never spoke to him. And the report was never made public. And I am saying, I said before that I'm saying that given the way this government operates, if that report was a favorable report, they would have had it all over the place. It would have been propaganda all
Mhm.
over. The
Mhm.
fact that that report remains a secret on today like today means that things are in that report that are not favorable to the police and not favorable to the government.
So here again, we're having a repeat of 20 of the early 2000s when we so many young men were killed. Mothers, their sons went out and then they didn't return. Some of them they have not even found their bodies, and we're having a return of this again. And so we had Peter Headley, we got the Henry boys, we got the Pete Boss, they are in Boston boy, and now we got this Bacchus boy, Quindon Bacchus. I mean, and a year is a year. I think it is going to be very soon. Again, another one, Paul.
A year has passed with this matter. A year has passed because I remember very well that the policemen who were charged appeared in court on the 5th of July last year. So the murder would have taken place before that. And again, these things you don't know what is going on with the case. You don't know, and this is a terrible case. This case of the whole operation that led to the killing of this young man, Quindon Bacchus, was a terrible operation with senior people in the force involved, incompetent. Because of their incompetence, you had cases where special branch men were going to make arrests, and it was a whole, as somebody said, a comedy show. Because I know in policing, your special branch people are not going to be exposed to this type of thing. They are the ones who mix with the people. You don't even know that they are police. They pass the information on to the operative branches like the CID perhaps and uniform police to execute the operation. Because remember, at some stage, if the matter goes before the court, one expects that the police have to go in the box, the witness box, and give evidence. And you don't want your undercover people, the special branch people, to be going to court. But they block this whole thing, and then 3 persons are charged. And when you review, this is a matter I followed up very, very closely, the report from the Police Complaints Authority that supervises investigation. And all, when you look at it, the strange thing, 3 African Guyanese policemen are charged. There were at least 2 Indo-Guyanese policemen there actively involved in the whole process, and they are not charged. One man who is charged, the McLennan, Damian McLennan, was not even at the scene, and they cook up something to say perverting the course of justice and all of that. So this thing, this matter is a very terrible one. And again, I say, I looked at some of the evidence. I am waiting to hear what will happen in this case in terms of, I think it's still at the preliminary inquiry stage, but the people have been, every time you go, it's put off. You come up, they put off. You come up, they put off. And justice delayed is justice denied. The
Yes.
policemen who are charged need to be, if they are guilty, they need to be held accountable. The family of the deceased person need justice. And in the case of the policemen who were charged, you're talking about the Police Complaints Authority made a point about the man who was sitting in the chair as the commissioner, violating the Police Complaints Authority Act. He violated the Constitution in respect to this matter, because these policemen were charged on the 5th, they appeared in court on the 5th of July 2022, and they were dismissed from the force on the same day. So there's no presumption of innocence as guaranteed by the Constitution. These men, even though they are charged, even though they might have been involved, there's a presumption of innocence. They got to go through, you have to have due process. And the Attorney General loves to talk about the presumption of innocence. In the Nigel Darmlal case, he jumped out very early. Right? Early he jumped out to say, well, Nigel Darmlal is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court of law. Yeah, that is so, but that should apply across the board, not selectively, across the board. So these 3 policemen who were dismissed were entitled to the presumption of innocence. They are still entitled to the presumption of innocence. So too are the 3 constables from Borbies who were dismissed because of some officer lost his firearm. They are entitled to the presumption of innocence. And to have dismissed them in the manner that they were dismissed is unconstitutional, is illegal. And I hope, I have spoken about this thing repeatedly, I hope that they challenge it in court. I hope that they challenge the action of the man who's now squatting in the chair in the court of law.
Well, Paul, it seems as if this is not going to end anytime soon. I think we have another slide to bring on there. And I am wondering, well, we spoke about this one here with this young lady and her 8-year-old son who were found in their home this afternoon. Where are we really heading, Paul? Where are we really going?
It's blood, every day, every week. I have a weekly program, and every week it's murders. Every week it's fatal accidents. Well, in terms of fatal accident, the minister did make a statement that given the numbers, they're gonna be comfortable with 5 fatal accidents a month. Imagine that. Imagine that. When you should be striving for zero fatal accident, the minister said 5 are gonna be okay. 5. So I don't know how many murders are gonna be okay for the minister. I don't know how many. And let me come back to the point you raised about persons being recruited from the outside. I have advocated for the longest while for the government to look into the model used by Trinidad and Jamaica and other countries in the Caribbean, where they recruited senior officers from abroad to come and to give experience and to lend some credibility to the system, right? The system that we have in Guyana, where you're just promoting people because they are there and because they are favored, whether they're qualified or not, cannot be sustained. It cannot work. If you continue like that, you're going to continue to get these results that you're getting. Lots of deaths, lots of accidents, a demoralized force. I call on the minister during my program today to provide us with the number of ranks in the force who would have illegally withdrawn or otherwise left the force. And my information is that the numbers are staggering. People just walking off the job because they are demoralized. And they're going, the pay is nothing. The government boasted last year that they increased the pay, and the constable pay now I think is $102 or around $105,000 a month. And the same week, when they made that announcement, a private security company advertised, and a security company that is aligned to the government advertised that they want security officers, and they're paying them $130,000 a week. They only have to work 5 days, and the same week that they did that, the same week. And then they said the president said that if you have 10 years service as a constable, you're supposed to get something more and so on. And I made the statement then that given what is going on in the police force, if you have a constable, even person, a constable has 10 years service, we say that he is a NFG. The N is to know, the G is so good, and you can figure out what the F is for. But if you got a man in the police force 10 years as a constable now, and still 10 years as a constable, waiting to get a raise in salary, NFG, no, F, good.
Paul, we're taking a closer look. This thing it's becoming laughable. Where this government is boasting, you see, they went to Parliament just the other day, and they got the Ministry of Home Affairs. They got $2 billion. And this is supplementary. And this is the second one this is about the third one they went back for. And it is so disgusting that you are collecting all of these monies, but nobody could say where these monies are being channeled to. You're hearing about building new police stations. You're hearing about getting new vehicles, but you're not hearing anything about the upliftment of the human resources there. You're not hearing anything about that. It is disgusting.
And that is a main part of the problem. They are, and you know, there's a reason behind this. You know, don't believe that this thing is by accident. That you're gonna get how many $1 billion and you're just repairing buildings or building new buildings. Look to see who are the ones who get in those contracts to build the buildings and so on. But the human resource, there's no attempt to develop the human resource, to train, to increase the remunerations, and no real attempt to deal with that. No real attempt. So I want to know, you're providing all sort of new building, you're claiming about vehicles, and you're claiming about all this everything. If you have people who are not properly trained, if you have people who are not properly motivated to work, you're going to be in the same boop, as we would say. You're in the same place. There can be no improvement. There can be no significant improvement because it's people have to do the work. And if you really want things to change, you have to make sure that the people are satisfied, that the people are well trained, the people are motivated to work. I know a lot of policemen who now only going to work because they have to go. They go to work and they make a little wave as possible, go to work in the morning, put in your hours, and then go back home and enjoy your time at home with your family and so on. That is what is going on. People are not motivated to go out there and to go after criminals and all of that. They are not. And of course, you have the elephant in the room, which is the allegation of corruption and so on. And that is a big issue as well. Lack of confidence. Lack of confidence. People lack confidence in the system, not only in the police, but in the judicial system, in the old system. People lack confidence. And as a former senior police officer, I can tell you that if people do not trust the police, you can't get the work done. Because the police are not going to be everywhere to see what is going on. You got to rely on people to provide information, to provide statements for you to prosecute, to go to court and to give evidence. And if people don't trust the system, if they don't rely on the system, nothing is going to happen. As Conway would say, people have eyes but they will not see. They will have ears and they not hear. They have mouth, they will not speak. They will not come forward to tell you what has happened.
Well, you know, Paul, as you're talking about policemen leaving the police force, we have recognized too that our nurses are leaving. We have about in excess of 100 nurses who would have left this country for greener pastures. And if you're saying things are good, you're treating them well, and people don't run from anything good. So why are all of these nurses leaving? Why aren't our people sticking to some of these jobs? People are running away from these jobs because why? You're not paying them properly. You're not paying them, so people are leaving. We have the complaints coming from our folks who are right there they're working with Exxon and so on, and they're saying that the expatriates are paid far more than them. Some of them are even saying, look, we are doing the same job. We in the same kitchen, we cook in. And they're receiving much more money than we're receiving. So I don't know what is happening in this country. We have a labor minister, I would always say, who doesn't understand labor, and he can't even labor for himself. So he can't labor for anybody else. And I heard him talking about we're going to have to do some more. He indicated recently that we're going to have to train our welders and masons. We are going to have to further train them so that they can gain employment with the foreign companies. And it leaves one to wonder, what has been happening with all the monies that the Ministry of Labor was collecting for training? What, you didn't know that you had to train these persons up to a certain level before? You didn't know that? And why haven't you worked with the Ministry of Education to change the curriculum or upgrade your curriculum? Why? What? don't understand how these people operating. They operating so back to front as if they're putting the cart in front of the horse, and then they're screaming big. We don't have people to do this and people to do that. As we take a closer look, Paul, what are your comments on that?
Well, it goes all back to competence. You have to have people with a vision. You have to have people who are competent. And if they don't have a vision, if they don't have the competency, you're not gonna go any place. And that is the reality. And you talk about the Minister of Labor, my countryman Pilori Joe is known as, and somebody said he get a colorful background. So the old story is that people are put into these positions, and they are not capable of performing. I made the point about the man at Home Affairs, the same thing. The person is there, and these persons don't have a clue as to what is going on. They're just there. They're just carrying on like the old time comedy movie Carry On. But you have to have people who can sit and who can plan and who can have foresight, because the oil and gas industry is here. You have to be able to project down the road what type of skills you're gonna need. And therefore, you have to put systems in place which should have been put in place a long time now to make sure that you upskill your persons. But you get a situation that you have described where you are basically second-class citizens in your own country, because that's the only way you can describe it. Because if you're working in an institution or an agency, and you are a local doing the same work as the foreigners, and they are being better remunerated than you, then you are a second-class citizen in your own country. That is what it is.
And I agree with you. And I'm noticing one of our callers saying there, Mr. Glasgow, good night to you. And he's saying that Guyana produced some of the best, if not the best, masons and carpenters. So for the minister to say what he is saying there is foolishness, because you have our masons who have been going to Barbados. Paul, you remember that? They're going to Barbados.
Yes. Right now, not only going, but I know that because I worked in Barbados and I have friends from Barbados, Antigua, and those places, they could tell you that the Guyanese persons, these carpenters and masons, are in high demand because of the quality of work. So I don't know what the minister is really talking about.
So here again, we find the Jagdio and his folks in the PPP. Again, they're coming up with a whole lot of bogus excuses why they don't want to pay people properly. And they're bringing all these kinds of foolishness. But you know what is happening, Paul? I think the whole thing here is that they want to bring in a whole lot of the Spanish and a whole lot of those from Pakistan and all over the other place for one purpose, to vote for them. And so they're making a whole lot of excuses that our people here can't do the work. They're not at the standard. They're not this, they're not that. If your own people are not there, what you have to do, you have to train your people. Bring folks in and train your people. Don't tell us foolishness, because, come on, yes, we beg, but we got sense.
Yeah, because we still have a very high unemployment rate, so it means that people are there, but you just need to make sure that they have the requisite skill. And even though you might start off now with a deficit, but in a year or two, you ought to be able, things like electricians and drivers, you ought to be able to make sure that you can have the local people to do the job.
But Paul, this doesn't sound right. It doesn't add right. And like Nigel Dharamlal was saying, that the other Nigel Hughes, he couldn't count. But it's alarming that the same Nigel who couldn't count was the same Nigel that Nigel Dharamlal took to represent him. You recognize that? So it's the same foolishness that's spewing all over the place, and then they got to come right back. Because I can say to you, and you know this, the Government Technical Institute, they are conducting electrical, welding, and all of these masonry classes and all of these things there. At the Guyana GNIC, they're doing that there. They're doing the same thing at the Gaisuko Training Center, and so many other places they're doing the same thing. So I don't understand what kind of foolish comments the minister is making here.
Well, it don't make much sense. And as you pointed out, Nigel Hughes couldn't count. But when time came for representation, Nigel is the man Dharamlal ran to. And you remember the vice president said that Nigel Hughes only represents criminals. So maybe that is why Dharamlal went to him. That,
Because
that,
we
that,
know that
that, that seems to be a plausible explanation. Because if you're
yeah,
representing criminals and you gone to him to represent you, then by extension, one, you're saying that you're a criminal.
right? And it's they don't even realize how easy they just sell themselves out. They don't realize that. But Paul, I think we have a couple of minutes more on this program. Maybe we can take 2 or 3 calls in. Callers, our number is what's our number? We had our number just now. Our number is 651 3556. 651 3556. And you can do WhatsApp too. So you can call us straight or you can call us on WhatsApp and we'll take your calls very quickly. Remember to be respectful. So while we're going to wait for callers to call in, Paul, we can talk a little more. We can take a little closer look at what is happening there. Yes, the Nigel story. And as I was saying, we have all of these training institutes where our folks are being trained. And they don't only stop at the technical institutes. Many of them go over to the University of Guyana. So I don't understand how you're saying that our people are not at the level. They have to pass through year 1 and year 2 for them to be able to graduate at the Government Technical Institute. And they have to reach a certain level. So I don't understand. I think we have a caller coming through. Caller, good night to you. I am doing well, and how are you?
Calling you back from Canada.
Okay.
I heard you said something. It's the most powerful thing you just said there. What you said there is exactly the truth. This guy, Jagdeo and Ali, is looking to transform Guyana from English to Spanish to an Islamic nation. Spanish.
Something is happening.
And Islamic nation. He said this. If Jagdeo is playing with fire, he's going to have exactly what he's asking for. Just recently, there was an assassination in Haiti. You know who did that? The people from Colombia went in there. That president in Haiti, and remember, Haiti is a French-speaking nation. And just recently, a few days ago, we had another political assassination in Ecuador. That person was a Spanish person. I think he was running to become the next president of Ecuador. And you know who the assassins were? So this is what I'm going to say. If Jagdeo is asking for fire, he's going to have it. And Ali, the same thing too. But I personally believe, but I heard he wants to speak, his format to speak Spanish. I guess something's on. This guy to me is collaborating either with the United Nations or WEF. Something is going on here within the political system and it's very dangerous to the people. And the guy needs to rise up and say, hell no. This belongs to us. Remember, that's English or get out. Because listen, if you go to a speaking country now, they're not going to ask you to speak, they don't speak English there. So you have to speak their language because you're there in their territory. Because likewise, the same thing has to be done in Ghana. If not, we're going to lose our nation. Look what is happening around the world. These Pakistani people, you see what is happening there? Almost every day, there's an assassination there. We need to protect our territory. If not, we're going to lose it. And I'm praying to God that Brother Slowe, continue to do your work. I love you. Sister Coretta, love you. Coretta, love you. And I love our Guyanese people. Keep fighting. And do me a favor. This guy, Jagdeo, let me say this before I go. He is working with the Chinese Communist government. Listen to what happened. Did you notice the other day what happened to him, this Chinese guy, this Slowe? I heard about this, but what happened there? Now, there was a Chinese communist influence here in the political arena here in Canada. And right now we have an investigation going on with the Liberal government in Canada, which is the Trudeau government, that is being used by the Chinese government to transform Canada into a democracy, into a communist system. And he right now, his administration right now is under investigation. So watch Ali, watch Jackie, because he's taking influence from China. And listen to this. The president of China, he's not just only the president of China, he's called the general secretary. That means he has more power over the president. He's the overseer of everything there. And that's what Jackie is doing. He is working with China to transform the communist system. And you all need to see this for what it is. Get and throw this guy out of the office. Not only him, but most of the people in this cabinet are corrupt. Why? You have a prime minister there, he's sitting down doing nothing at all about it. You have this guy Ed Hill, and many of them are there. They're sitting down there and they're doing nothing on their bid, on their whatever. They sit down there doing nothing. You want to tell me you're going to see one bully. This guy's a dictator. Just yesterday, I saw him made a threat to somebody in the States there. I think this guy Richard Burke. Now he's going to have a conference there in the States. All the diasporas are allowed to go there, and he's making threats to the man. He's not a criminal. He's doing what is right. He's in a democracy country. He's allowed to call the diaspora to speak out what's happening. But he did the same thing to the man. He made a threat. Now, this is the exact same thing what the Chinese government is doing within Canada, and they're telling they have the Chinese instead of here in the States, and they're taking the Chinese population here and threatening them that if they don't comply with what they want, China, you'll be taken back. You'll be arrested and taken back to China for torturing. This is the same China that Jackie is working with. Jackie is working with China. He is a dictator. I'm calling upon. So rise up, see for what it is. Do not be manipulated with this guy talking about Indian and black and all this. This is all these people use to get what they want. You know, he wants to conquer. That's what he's doing. And most of the people in the quarantine area, unfortunately, most of them may not be that highly informed. They're not that educated to see the truth, what is happening. And he's playing with their emotions, bringing up things of the past and all sorts. I saw exactly what he's doing. And so they're getting one that to believe into voting for this PDP government to keep them in power. And the more they keep them in power, is the more destructive the nation is going to go down. So I'm calling on you all to go around inform the people what is happening, to see what it is. If not, they're going to be losing their lives, their communities, and eventually their country, and then their own control on the communistic system. That's what is going to happen. But this is the thing that they are, and you need to get them out. You need to get them out. Then rise up and fight.
Thank you so much, caller, for calling. Thank you. You're welcome. Have a good night.
And Brother Slowe, love you. And that's the people of Canada. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Caller, good night to you. Oh no, she's all right. Caller, good night to you. I'm not sure what has happened there. Anyhow, we have a caller there who called in, and we would want to ask you to make your calls very short so that we can have a few other persons calling in. But I want to be very careful when we have our callers calling in, because Paul, unless they think that you and I are promoting any kind of strife or any kind of riot or anything in this country, we're not promoting that. We are listening to persons who call in and they're voicing how they feel about what is happening. So we're not promoting, and we are not putting together any team to overthrow anybody or anything like that. Our callers are saying how they feel, and that's a caller from Canada calling to talk about how she feels about what is happening here in Guyana. Paul?
Yeah, I like the disclaimer, but how these people operate. They're going to twist and they're going to twisting and they're going to propagandize whatever they want to do, but they can do whatever they want to do. The truth is there, and it's the truth that they run from. I've said repeatedly, when I speak on any issue, I dare them to challenge and to debunk. There's a word I like to use. Anything that I have said, because I speak the truth.
Okay, we have another caller calling in. And good night to you.
Mr. McDonald, blessed night to you and your viewers. I am calling concerning one issue that I have. I don't really know what this issue is speaking about, but I just joined the show. However, what I'm calling to find out, this thing with this government that he's bringing out, man on a mission. When they bring out this man on a mission thing, it was civilians and people at the government trying to get a party. However, they involved the GDF. Now, if you notice, not only black ops the people at Canary Airport, if there's like a prison, you gotta walk in a wall and then you gotta clean before you could go into the people's store or the people shop, whatever they have there, snack it or what's that, right? But what I cannot understand, the man mission now it includes soldier, and soldier is cleaning people's house, washing it, spraying people's fence, and painting back people place from the road from Tineri. I understand that the project is going straight to Providence. Is this what our armed force turn to? I think the armed force is to defend the territorial integrity of Guyana. Not that they're cleaning people clean, but you know the wickedness in this government? The wickedness in this government that is bringing down the military. He's bringing down the military. Any country military doing their washing people please or cleaning people, painting back people please. There's a defending the borders. And this was what the former president used to have the military doing. Not walking around Georgetown cleaning for little scrabbling money, a bonus money when the year end come. That money is supposed to be given to the people of Guyana, not only to the military. But instead of paying the council them to do their work, you take the force because you give them a little bribe money at the end of the year. I think that will solve the problem. That is not going to solve this problem. Guyana is going into a crisis and we need to get up and work. This country is going from bad to worse.
Yep.
From bad to worse.
Thank you, caller. Many, many mothers are crying. Many sisters are crying. Many children are crying because they're losing their fathers and their brothers and their sons and all of that. But we've got to be able to take our country back. Thank you for calling. We'll take one more caller and then we're going to go out. Good night. I don't know. Maybe we lost that caller. But Paul, we'll take your closing remarks before we go out, because I know quite a lot of persons would want to call into the program, but we hadn't enough time for them to call. When you have sessions like these, taking a closer look, then the time really fly away from you. Paul, your closing thoughts as we conclude on a closer look.
Well, thanks. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share some ideas and to express some views. I want to say that the country, in terms of public security, I think that is my forte, public security and safety. And it's in a crisis. Public security in Guyana is in a crisis, notwithstanding what the authorities will want to tell us. We live there, so therefore we experience these things. Murders, only this afternoon, this woman and her young child are killed. And this thing is becoming overbearing. And then you have a force that is not operating professionally. The force is being weaponized. And the same thing the last caller spoke about. You have the police and the army involved in activities which are not their core functions. They should cater and concentrate on their core functions. The police core function, prevention and detection of crime, successful prosecution of offenders. And that is what you need to focus on. When you get that going good, when you get that down pat, then perhaps you can branch off into all these public relations stunts. But to focus on the public relation stunts, and I got to pronounce the word very carefully lest I be accused of saying the wrong thing, public relations stunts. When you focus on that, then what happens? You're not dealing with your core functions. And that is the big problem. And I say that and this is one of the things that they're doing, they're denying what is happening. So the president, the commissioner or the man who sits in this chair, the man who squats in the chair, they overface me and say, oh, crime is under control. But people who live there know different. And I say that unless you accept what the reality is, then you are not going to take measures to deal with it. Because you live in an alternate universe. You seeing things that do not exist. You're saying that crime is under control and public safety is okay. And the embassies, the Chamber of Commerce, the residents, people who live there know differently. So it's time they got to own up and make sure that proper measures are put in place to deal with this issue. Because you cannot speak about development unless the environment is conducive to that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Paul, we recently saw the sugar estate, the sugar workers in Kanji, I think somewhere there, Kanji Rosehall Estate. They were protesting. I think it's about 4 days they have been protesting. And today I noted that that Gao had their conference, the opening of their conference. I wonder if the issues were settled before maybe yesterday afternoon or last night. But we saw the sugar workers there protesting, and they were speaking out, and they were talking about those who were paid their severance, and they're now here. They've returned to the estates, and they're moving them from one estate to another, and some have not been paid because they were working there all the time. What exactly are we doing as we go out on taking a closer look?
Well, the sugar workers are a special type of people, you must remember that. And from the time I saw the sugar workers, at least in that area, I think it was Rosal, came out and were on strike, I told myself that is going to resolve in their favor very shortly. So I understand now that I think as of today, they got the design. In other words, they're not going to be they are no longer going to be moved from, I think, Rosal to Albion or wherever. The sugar workers in Guyana are in a separate category of workers. They will get whatever demands are made. Let's understand, let's stipulate that whatever demands the sugar workers make, no matter how unreasonably we might feel it is, they are going to get what the demands are.
And so they are not going to be called hooligans like how the teachers were called hooligans. And
no, they're not hooligans. They are not behaving in a terroristic manner. No. They are special. They are special.
So we are going to conclude on taking a closer look that we have Animal Farm once again. Well, Paul, I want to thank you so much for being here with me. We're going to do this another time because we still have a lot to talk about in terms of security, which is your baby. And as we take closer look, we are going to ensure that we make our viewers aware of exactly what is happening, what should be done, and why they refuse to have what is supposed to be done. But as we go out, I want to say to you, viewers, take care, be careful on the roadways, be careful, keep your environments clean because dengue and typhoid's on the rise. And you have to protect you because this government, they don't care about you. And as we go out, I want to dedicate this special song to the man who continues to hold on to Honorable. Paul, thank you so much. Viewers, we'll see you again next week, 6:30 for more on Advancing the Cause.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
We'll go out on this one.
Me say no make them take advantage of you. Nah, yeah. Young girl going to school, yeah. No follow nobody, cause that man who you call you sexy could be twice your daddy. Man, no time rough like Coretta, plus your mama don't have it. Please me, I beg you, don't make them come mess up your body. And you dirty man, leave the people beneath them alone. You dirty man. So leave the people beneath them alone. Ooh, you're just a waste man. A waste. If you listen to your daughter, when she tell her she no happy, you see the signs and turn a blind eye. Me I beg you to stop it, 'cause that man where you ever come check you, when you let him tell a story, you left your young girl all alone. Not take your daughter, sell her to no dirty man. You dirty man. Leave the people beneath them. Such